Hey everybody, welcome to the Soul Food Priest podcast with Father Ben. It's wonderful to have you. Not long ago, a movie came out in the United States. It's called Conclave with Stanley Tucci and John Lithgow and Ralph Fiennes. And it's all about the election of a new pope. And I'm a huge fan of John Lithgow and Ralph Fiennes and Stanley Tucci. However, one of the problems with the movie, of course, shocker, it's completely inaccurate. Hollywood has a talent for that. But many of us remember when we were growing up that we would go to the movies and it was a huge experience, right? We would eat plenty of popcorn and candy and all types of things. And of course, as many of you know, Hollywood is in full panic mode because over the last 5 years, attendance at movie theaters has plummeted almost 50%. Why? Because of any number of things. The cost, the pandemic. One of the things people report a lot is people are just plain rude. They'll be sitting next to people in movies. They're talking, staring at their phones. They're filming it. They're cussing. And now, of course, people can stream. And Hollywood is in full panic mode, of course, shocker, because they're losing plenty of money. Add to this, of course, I think most of us would agree that many of the movies out now are just plain boring. They just keep rehashing the same thing over and over again. King Kong number 50, right? Whatever it is. And so it's just not worth it for many people. And I have to say, personally, for me, it's not. I think the last movie I went to was several years ago. But it does bring up a point in this movie Conclave. They touch on the issue of ordination of women to the priesthood. And so to that point, I think it's worth just reiterating some of the things we've talked about previously on our podcast, and that's this. Look, the church is not saying that we won't ordain women to the priesthood. The church says that we can't. So even if we wanted to, we have zero authority to do that. So we can't. And so it's not a matter of like the Pope getting together with the cardinals and the bishops and taking a show of hands. It doesn't work that way. This is what's called an infallible doctrine, which means no Pope, no one can change it. And Pope Francis himself has made this point many times over. And so it's worth remembering that in 1994, for instance, Pope John Paul II, now a canonized saint, published an apostolic letter called Ordinatio Sacerdotalis. And he makes the point in that document, and I'm quoting here, he says, the church has no authority whatsoever to ordain women to the priesthood. So again, we have no authority to do this. And John Paul was only reiterating what we've said since the first century. And yet people will never let this go. Let's be honest. Catholicism has always had a big fat target on its back, especially with regards to the media and the entertainment and secular press. Whenever there's a hierarchy of anything, it's an easy target. Keeping in mind the opposite of the word hierarchy is anarchy. And that's exactly what we see with a number of churches when there's no structure. So for each one of us, it's worth pointing out that we, of course, 100% see that men and women are equal. And yet, we are different. For instance, I do not have a vocation to be a mother. I would be a really bad one, trust me. And yet, I am equal to mothers and to women. In the same way, of course, women do not have a vocation to be a priest, and yet they are 100% equal to clergy. And so that's very, very difficult for American culture to understand, is that we are equal but different. So imagine, for instance, two lungs breathing together. We are equal but different. People tend to understand equality in terms of being exactly the same. That's called androgyny. So we're going to erase any sexual difference. That way we're all equal. It just doesn't work that way. In fact, that creates even more problems. So for each one of us, remember, God has made us in his image and likeness, but he's given us different vocations, different callings. And so for each one of us, that's important to remember, that we have rights and we have dignity. And yet, even though women are not called to be priests, they are equal nonetheless. Don't forget to put soul in your food and give food to your soul. God bless you.